Sophia Reynolds stepped out of her black car and into the cool evening air, grateful for the rare moment of quiet. As the CEO of a powerful company in Chicago, her days were filled with pressure, meetings, and people constantly trying to impress her or worse, use her tonight. She had chosen simplicity, dressed in plain clothes with minimal makeup and no sign of luxury. She walked into a small cozy cafe tucked between busy streets. It was the kind of place where no one cared about titles. And that was exactly what she needed. Inside, the warm lights and soft chatter offered comfort. Sophia ordered a coffee and found a corner seat, hoping to enjoy a few peaceful minutes alone. For a while it worked. She watched people come and go, families laughing, couples talking, and workers unwinding after long days. It reminded her of a life she rarely experienced anymore. But the calm didn't last. A sharply dressed man sitting nearby noticed her and made his way over without invitation. At first his tone seemed casual, but there was an edge to it, overconfident, entitled. He sat down across from her as if he belonged there. Sophia politely told him she preferred to be alone, but he didn't take the hint. Instead, he leaned in, his words becoming more persistent, his presence more uncomfortable. Sophia's expression tightened. She had dealt with men like him countless times, men who didn't understand boundaries, who thought persistence was charming. Normally, she would shut it down quickly. But tonight she didn't want to reveal who she was or create a scene. Still, the man's arrogance made it harder to ignore. "I said I'm not interested," she repeated, her voice firmer now. He smirked, clearly amused rather than discouraged. "Come on, don't be like that," he replied, dismissing her words as if they meant nothing. The situation was beginning to draw quiet attention from nearby tables, but no one stepped in except one person. From a nearby table, a man who had been quietly eating with his young daughter looked up. Mark didn't look like someone important. His clothes were simple, slightly worn, and his posture carried the weight of long days and responsibilities. But his eyes were steady, and there was a quiet strength in the way he observed what was happening. After a moment, he stood up. "Hey," Mark said, his voice calm but firm as he approached the table. "She asked you to leave her alone." The arrogant man turned surprised and irritated. He looked Mark up and down, clearly judging him. "This doesn't concern you." He snapped. Mark didn't back away. "It does when someone isn't being respected," he replied evenly. There was no aggression in his tone, no attempt to show off, just simple, undeniable truth. The cafe grew quieter as people sensed the tension. The arrogant man hesitated, realizing he was no longer in control of the situation. With an annoyed scoff, he stood up, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. Silence lingered for a moment before the normal sounds of the cafe slowly returned. Sophia looked at Mark, surprised not just by what he had done, but how he had done it. There was no expectation in his eyes, no pride or need for recognition. He simply nodded once as if to check that she was okay, then turned back toward his table where his daughter waited. For the first time in a long while, Sophia felt something unfamiliar. It wasn't admiration for power or charm. It was respect. Sophia watched Mark return to his table, the moment settling in her mind long after the tension had faded. There was something different about him, something steady and real that she hadn't felt around anyone in a long time. After a brief hesitation, she stood up, picked up her coffee, and walked over. "Thank you," she said softly. Mark looked up, a little surprised but calm. "You don't have to thank me," he replied. "Anyone should have done the same." Sophia gave a faint smile. "Maybe, but you actually did." His daughter, sitting across from him, looked between them with curiosity. Mark gently introduced her, and Sophia greeted her warmly, instantly noticing how polite and kind she was. It didn't take long for her to see how much care and effort Mark put into raising her. Trying not to make things awkward, Sophia offered, "Can I at least buy you both dinner?" Mark shook his head lightly. "I appreciate it, but that's not necessary. We're okay." His tone wasn't defensive or proud. It was simply honest. Sophia respected that, but she didn't want the conversation to end there. Something about his presence made her feel normal. "Then maybe I can just sit for a few minutes?" she asked. Mark hesitated for a second, then nodded, "Sure." They talked quietly, the conversation flowing more naturally than Sophia expected. She learned that Mark worked multiple jobs, construction during the day and delivery at night, just to keep things stable for his daughter. There was no complaint in his voice, no bitterness, just determination. What about you? Mark asked. After a while, Sophia paused. She wasn't used to answering that question without mentioning her title.
Tonight, she chose not to.
I work in business, she said simply. Mark nodded, not pressing further. That alone surprised her. Most people would have been curious, asking for details, trying to figure out her status. But he didn't seem interested in anything beyond the conversation itself. As the minutes passed, Sophia found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. There were no expectations, no hidden intentions, just two people talking honestly. Mark's daughter laughed at something small, and Mark smiled in a way that showed both exhaustion and deep love. It was a simple moment, but it felt meaningful. Eventually, Sophia stood up. I should go, she said, though part of her didn't want to. Mark nodded, take care. She hesitated, then added, I might come back here again. You're welcome anytime, he replied, his tone unchanged days later. Sophia did return, but this time everything was different. She arrived in a sleek car, dressed in her usual professional style. The cafe staff immediately recognized her, their behavior shifting with visible respect. When Mark saw her walk in, he froze for a brief moment, clearly caught off guard. Sophia approached him with a small smile. I guess I wasn't completely honest the other day. Mark studied her for a second, then let out a quiet breath. Yeah, I can see that. I'm Sophia Reynolds, she said. CEO of Reynolds Group. There was a pause, but not the reaction she was used to. No sudden excitement, no change in attitude. Mark simply nodded, okay, he said. Sophia blinked, slightly surprised. That's it, Mark gave a small shrug. You're still the same person who sat here the other night. For a moment, Sophia didn't know what to say. Then she smiled genuinely this time. And in that simple, honest response, she realized something important. For once, someone wasn't impressed by her title. They were simply seeing her,